All right. So we are a few lines below the middle of page Zion. We will start at the line that begins with Taharom. At the end of the parentheses. So we are now explaining what is actually the meaning, what is intended when we say that the kavona, elokis, the godly kavona in creation, is and should be dira betachtonim, that the elokus should be here betachtonim, and the Rebbe explains that it means it should be begilui, because elokus is here all everywhere. Everything is created by elokus, but it's not begilui. But you see his world, not godliness. And the inyan is that it should be begilui. And that is expressed in the word Zeh Hayem Tchilas Masach. That ultimately has to be at the level of Zeh. And Zeh denotes absolute gilui, absolute revelation. And the Shomes Yisrael, this is the Kavona Elokis in the creation, because they have the ability to be Megala Elokus in this way of Zeh. This is what we said. Now, in explaining this, the Rebbe has said that, brought down the Gemara says that all the Nevi'im said Nevuah with the expression of Koi Yomar Hashem. Moshe, in addition to Koi, he said also Zeh Hadam, which means Moshe had a clearer, a deeper recognition of the Nevuah of Elokus than all other Nevi'im. He was able to say Zeh. Now we're discussing what is implied, what is the difference implied of Koi and Zeh. Because when you say Koi means like this. So you're saying also the same thing. What is the difference whether you say Zeh or you say Koi? And yet, in both cases you're saying basically the same thing. You're not saying a lie, you're saying the truth. But there's a difference in terms of the Gilui, and we are going to be discussing what is the so significance about this Gilui. Pirush Koi, this we already learned a little bit. Koi hu bechinas malchus da atzilus. Koi is the bechina, which means that it is of the quality, excuse me, of the quality of Malchus Atzilus. Shenikra Koi, which is called Koi. Okay, this is going to be discussed now. Let's explain that. I explained last time a little bit about Malchus. Why all of a sudden Malchus? There are 10 spheres, why all of a sudden Malchus? So briefly, we will discuss it much more in detail later. Malchus, as we said then, Malchus is the final representation, the end moment, like in Dibur, in speech. Whatever a person experiences, has in his seichel and his midas, comes out in speech. Now, the way it comes out in speech, it represents what he had in mind, represents what he feels, but it is not that real essential thing. Speech cannot possibly bring out the essence itself.
That's like what Koi is. Okay.
That's what Koi is. Now you said this is only an introductory step, and we are going to be discussing it as we go along. Which is why it's called Malchus Atzilus. Shenikro Koi. Kitevas Koi, because the word Koi, Pirushoy, has the meaning of Kocha. Kocha means like that. Like that, which means you're comparing it to something else. Shehu inyan chov hadimiyon bilvad, which is the usage of the word of the lois koi in kov hadimiyon. Kov hadimiyon means kov is the letter kov, hadimiyon that expresses comparison, similarity, like doimen. Doimen means similar to. It's not the thing itself. Koi represents chov hadimion bilvad shemedame loimar, where he compares to say kozeh kachzeh. That's koch. Kozeh, like this one, kachzeh, likewise is this. That's the idea of a chov. It's comparing one thing to another. Ve'einoi etzem hadover, and thus the chov, the kocha, does not present etzem hadover, the essence itself, the thing itself. Rag hadmus bilvad meyoisoi ho'etzem. Only the form, the reflection, the similarity, meyoisoi ho'etzem, from that other etzem, from that other real thing.
I don't understand. How does that have to do with kacha? What do you explain? What do you mean?
Maybe you can sit also frontally so you can. No? It's much easier. I could see all of you. You'll be able to understand it better also because we're talking directly to each other. As I said, it's going to be done a lot of different illustrations of the principle, but so that we kept inside, so to speak. I'm going to discuss it a little bit. You understand the concept, the word koich kov hadimiyon, right? Kov hadimiyon.
Wait, so what? No. I'm still confused about what it means. Means the word kacha is like the chaf, which shows that it's comparing.
Right.
So the word kacha means like the chaf that usually is used to compare.
What are the two chofs in kocha?
Like this.
Like this. Like, that's right. Yeah, the term like, let me say this. The first principle, the first illustration of the principle of Gilui is, we discussed it many times, is if you see a person frontally, under your face, when you see a person in his face, you don't say that he looks like Getzel. You don't say, you are here because you look like you. It's totally out of place. Of course you look like you. But if you say you look like you, that means that you don't really know what I look like. Or you're not really looking at me. But you got somebody else who resembles this person, then you say he looks like him. Which means he has certain features, has a certain demeanor, whatever it is, a certain smile, something that reminds you of this other person. Characteristic, personality. But when you look at the person and you say, oh, you must be Getzel because you look like Getzel, that means that you don't know Getzel. The first principle of identifying, knowing a person face to face, is that this is not like him, but this is him. And I pointed out many times that you could see a person from the back, and you can also identify this person as him almost 100%. You say, for sure it's him. But not because you say, because he looks like him. It looks like him. It's never, this is him because this is him. When you see him in face, this is him because this is him. This is him.
The person isn't him from the back of his body?
Right. From the back, you don't know him. You don't know that this is him because it's him, but because he looks like him. Actually, this will be an opportune moment to discuss another. First of all, do I have you with me? Hello? Yeah. To discuss another very, very fine, very deep Inyan. Clear, but very important Inyan. The Rebbe created all kinds of things in the world. You know, I mean, the variety of creation is limitless, literally. And then he created a human being. And the human being is a creation all by itself. When he created the animals, he doesn't say, let there be a lion, let there be a tiger, let there be an elephant. He said, let the earth produce living beasts. They're all living beasts. And in that respect, they have this similarity. And they have different forms. What's a lion? A beast. What's a tiger? A beast.
Is a bird a beast?
I'm sorry?
Is a bird? Is a bird a beast as well?
A bird is a bird. Is a separate creation.
So separate though?
It's a separate creation.
Alright, so it was created on the fifth day, no?
Honey?
So the birds were created on the fifth day or sixth day?
The bird was created on the third day. And the beast was created on the fifth day. A bird, the life of a bird is not in the same category as that of a beast. You know, a bird, it's a completely different thing. Like by Korbanos, there's no moon by a bird, there's a moon by an animal. It's a different category. But in any case, the point is that a beast or any other creature, except for the human being, they were created in general terms. And in that general term, there were an enormous variety. And each variety is a derivative. Derived, it's taken from the letters, the words that created that general species. Alter Rebbe explains that everything that was created came from the letters of the Asorim Amoris. The Asorim Amoris, he created Nefesh Chaya. From this Nefesh Chaya, from the various combination of these letters, were created all kinds of Nefesh Chaya. They're all derivatives of the term from Nefesh Chaya. So essentially, the creation of that creature is not the individual; it is the general, the general species, the general level of nefesh chaya. And this is why animals do not possess that chashivus, that status, that each individual animal should have a name, should have a place, should own property. There's no such thing. He doesn't have that cheshivus. The animals in the general species, in a general way. So it says that the animals, they live in the jungle. So in a certain sense, they own the jungle, but not individual animals. It's the animal kind. This is where they roam. The fish roam in the waters. The birds roam in the air. Except for the human being. He was not created as a species. How was a human being created? As an individual. Not only was he created as an individual, a human being, man and woman, he was created an individual, only man. And then he was split, and the woman was split off, was a derivative from the man. This is what the human being is. Totally different category of creation. By an animal, you can hardly say, this is him, this is him, this is this tiger, this is this tiger, this is. There is no individuality there. One is like the other. A human being, every individual human being is a different partzuf and a different das, a different, slightly different nature, different qualities. A separate creation. Every individual person. This is why, by a human being, there is this element where you identify him by direct identity. Zeh. This is the person. Because he's not just like another human being. He's not just like a human being. A human being is not like a human being. He is a human being. Fully representative of what a human being is. Lahavdil from animals do not have that quality. This is why a human being, every individual human being, has the status. You know what status is? Of property ownership. He can own a piece of property that no one is allowed to intrude in, because he owns a piece of the world. It's a godly creation. He was put into the world. He was given a piece of land, and this is his. And the life of a person is not only precious, it's infinite. It's infinite. Pikuach nefesh teicha kol hatira kula. So the Gemara says that Adam nivra b'lichidi because he represents the whole world. This is why by human being there is this very significant term, this is him. And a human being we know by first person, directly. Because he has that status of being him. And this individuality of the person is very important. Every individual person has to do mitzvahs all by himself. And his life's value and so forth is not measured in terms of part of the whole world, the whole species. Every individual is a whole a whole world. That's why every individual, by a human being, has his own home, his own family, and whatever else that goes into living and having a part in the world.
You don't say this is a lion?
Yeah, you say this is a lion, but you're not going to say this is the lion. A human being is not this is a human being. That doesn't fit. This is him. This doesn't fit at all. This is a lion in what? In contrast to what? To a tiger. Or to any other. That's what you're saying. See, he's talking about the species, not the individual. There's no individual status in an animal. Okay, you understand that? Now that we understand that, we can understand the concept of Zeh. Zeh means that you're talking about something real, not something similar. You're talking about something that's real in and of itself. And then you are pointing to this Zeh. This is it. This is the person. Koi does not possess that clarity. I said, if you see a person from the back, and you know for sure this is this person, but you can't say Zeh, because you're not pointing to his individual, because in the back, all people look alike, basically. And you're identifying him because of some indicators, some signs. The way he stands, the way how tall he is, how big he is, how he moves around, you can say, oh, this is him. But it's not him per se, it is his likeness. But you know his likeness with such specificity, to such a small degree that you know you're sure that this is him. You understand what I'm saying? Every person moves his arm. So when you see a person moving his arm, you can't say this is this person, because every person moves the arm. But if you know the person very, very well, and you know his movements in a very minute level, you could say this is an arm movement of this person. But it's still only the arm movement. It's not that this is this person. It's still only an indicator. But because you are so used to him, therefore you know his arm movement not just in terms of movement, but every aspect of the movement.
I'm so confused because sometimes, with regard to animal, let's say if you're showing a kid, and so let's say you and someone else, let's say a father and son go to the zoo.
To what?
Let's say a father and son go to the zoo.
Zoo.
Father shows him, this is a tiger, this is a lion. It's there, no?
No. what does the word a mean? A tiger. Okay. A means one of.
One of the species of
A tiger.
tigers or beasts.
No, you can say a beast, or you can say a tiger. Either way you say it. You're speaking one of.
If you're saying this thing that you're seeing right now.
That's right. This is A. So you're not identifying this in the individuality of this particular element and entity.
Again? If you don't want to repeat that, I'm sorry.
When you say this is A, you're saying this is of that species, a member of that group. On a person, you're not going to say, this is a Yatsen. It would be an insult.
Just a funny way of saying it. Why isn't it insult?
Excuse me? Because then you're not talking about the person at the status of a human being. A human being has a different status. He's not one of. He is one. This is how we relate to human beings. He is one. One of the things we're going to come soon to Pashas Bolok and Bilam. So Bilam came out, he wanted to curse the Yid. And he tried every kind of different way. Finally, he said he is going to do it on his own. He's not going to wait for the will from the Leibushin. He's going to do it on his own. So he turned around, he wanted to see something inadequate, something not proper in the Jewish people. He stood there on the mountain and was able to see the entire Jewish camp.
So who is this again?
Huh?
Who is this again?
Bilam.
Oh.
And he wanted to see something to which he can grab on and say, oh, look at this, how disgusting this is, and have the claw on that. Turned around, and what did he see? Saw a huge nation encamped in the desert, each one in their own tent. Each family in its own tent. Not only that, but the tents were so situated that the entrance to each tent was directed differently in different direction than the tent opposite it. So there would be no chance by mistake to have a glance of what's doing in the other person's tent. This type of privacy, this type of individuality, this hit him and says, this is really respectable people. This is a real people. And then he started blessing. Matoy v'holach Yaakov. L'havdul bagoyim, even though they're also human beings, but they don't have that status of a human being in the full sense of the word. They intermingle, whatever schmutz there is, and this is what hit him. This is a real people. When Yidden came out of Mitzrayim, and they came out of slavery, and in Mitzrayim they were not distinguished one or the other, they were all enslaved equally. Except for Shevet Levi, they were all enslaved equally. They were beaten, they degraded, whatnot. When they came out, they were immediately divided into their tribes.
So what?
Tribes, Shvatim. Even so that 7 days later, when there was Kriyas Yamsuf, the Yam was split. It's 7 different pathways. I had 12 different pathways. Because each Shevet went in its own pathway. It's all one nation, but each Shevet went in its own pathway. This is representative, so to speak, of the true element. This is a godly creation. And however God created me, that's what I am. In the world, you say, look, you eat the same potatoes as I am. So what's the difference? Because that's what counts, what I eat, what I enjoy, right? Not by us. Every individual is an individual because what we represent is not what we eat, how he lives. We represent what God made us. And we act in the world from that perspective. Why did the Rebbe have to make separation? Kehanim, Levim, and Yisraelim. And amongst Yisraelim, individual Shvatim. Eretz Yisrael was divided by the Shvatim. What for? You created disparity. You're creating separateness. Make everything together. One big melting pot. Right? A melting pot is for tigers and lions. For Yidden, and for Goyim maybe. For Yidden, it's not a melting pot.
What's not a melting pot? Smoke?
What?
No, so what's not a melting pot?
The entire nation is not a melting pot. There are individual Shvatim. And in each Sheva there is a separate Mishpacha.
Yeah, so what the guy finds, so like when you refer to a guy, so you say this is that person, or this is just...
Yeah, I mean, Goyim are also also descendants of Odom Harishon. Essentially were created in a similar way, but they do not possess, so to speak, the ultimate principle of what Odom Harishon represented. Odom Harishon principally represented the Jewish people.
So like when he was Jewish?
He was Jewish. He was Jewish. In what meant he was Jewish? Jewish started from Yankiv Avinu, of Avram Yitzchak Yankiv. And a Jewish in terms of separating from the rest of the world. But he was Jewish in the sense that he only knew the Meibesh. He didn't know anything else. And then as the world, that was a process that there was Psoilus and the Psoilus fell away until the Avram Yitzchak Yankiv that clarified it. Even by Avram there was Ishmael, and by Yitzchak there was Esau. Ultimately Yankiv, this is purely Jewish.
So Jewish means separate from the world. Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm. Jewish means specifically that and nothing else. All right. All this is to explain the whole concept of Zeh versus Koi. And now we will learn inside a little bit. Koi means medama kozeh kachzeh. It is comparing one thing to the other. And even though you're pointing this out, but you're pointing it not in direct terms, you're pointing it out indirectly, only relative to. Ve'enoi etzem hadover. Koi does not point out. Etzem hadover, the essence of the thing. Rag hadmus bilvad, only the dmus, the the likeness, the Muslim is doima, the likeness of Yosei Ha'etzem from that Etzem. Okay, now that we have gone through this whole discussion, we can understand what the word Etzem means. Etzem refers to something that is real in and of itself. In our world, we have that really exclusively in the human being, and amongst human being in the Yid. Every Yid is an Etzem, is a real presence. In and of itself. Spoke the other day, many times, I say the other days, that when the Rebbe created the world, at the end of the fifth day, at the 5.5 days, everything was created, the beasts and everything was already finished. And at that time, if you would think of the world at that moment, was everything there except for the human being. And you ask yourself, what was the world about? Today, ask yourself, what is the world without the human being? What does the world stand for without the human being? And the answer is nothing. Nothing. I asked this question many times to get people to realize what type of wisdom we possess. For you to understand what we know without knowing that we know it. And I had all kinds of different responses, but generally speaking, it's nothing. Some say, what's the point? What is it about? You know what I'm saying? But basically, that's what it is. There's nothing there. Nothing there. You have this whole jungle of a world. All the animals doing their thing, the birds flying around, everything is going on. No human being, there's nothing going on. Then you take one human being and put in the middle of this jungle. One. All of a sudden, the whole picture changes. Something real surfaces. There's something real. This is the Pshat Etzem. Everything in the world is also a godly creation. But it doesn't have an essential value of its own. Everything has a value. Its value is for this purpose or for that purpose. It doesn't have an essential value of its own. When the human being comes into the world, all of a sudden the whole perspective changes. There's something real, something that is valuable in and of itself.
So what do you mean by itself is in the...
In and of itself, it means like this. The way that they demonstrated so that it would hit us is when you have Rahman al-Islam, when you have a human being who is very, very not well. He's not capable of doing anything. He's lying in his bed. He's totally incapable. Less moments of life. So practically speaking, in terms of his production capability, he is zero. But yet, all of us realize, understand, this is a full-fledged human being. He's alive. And we have to preserve this life in that state for as long as possible.
I'm asking you all this time, but I don't know, for some reason I never got the answer. I don't know, it just never clicked in my head. Why?
Because in this incapable state, like, listen carefully, and listening is not enough. Think about it. Find it in your own mind and your own nefesh. This cannot be explained from a worldly perspective. Because in the worldly perspective, it really doesn't have any explanation. It has no value.
In the worldly perspective, what?
It has no explanation, no value. You cannot do anything. What's the point? But from the worldly perspective, I said, there's a whole world without the human being that has no value. Nothing happened. What's the point? When we talk about value, we have to go a little deeper, and we do go a little deeper than the surface. Like the other day, I told you I asked a group of boys, what would be the tragedy? Would you think it's tragic if the world would just go into nothingness? It would be tragic. And they said, they were right. I mean, we have to examine their answer. From a worldly perspective, if nobody suffered, nothing happened. What's the point? What's the point of the world? What's the point of the world? Nothing. What is the point of the world? The human being. Why is the human being a point? What's the difference? Because the human being stands for, he represents the godly presence in the world. The human being perceives in his own life not how much potatoes he's going to eat. He perceives in his life, what is life about? What is the world about? Do you think an animal can possibly be explained the question as to what is the world about? Not only cannot understand the answer, he cannot even begin to approach a question. Leave me alone, I'm busy eating potatoes. Whatever it is.
So even if the person doesn't really have the knowledge of what the purpose is, but he knows that there must be something.
He knows, but he doesn't know logically, intellectually, but deep down, every person realizes that there's a reality. That's what a human being is. The truth is that there's a profound difference between a Yidden and L'Hav L'Goy at that level. But even a Goy has a greater status than an animal. He at least understands you have to do good, you have to behave nicely to your neighbor, you have to do favors. This is part of the human perception of life. A Yid is in a different category. He actually seeks what is the ultimate godly purpose in the creation. A Yid can sit a whole Shabbos and do nothing. Why are you doing nothing? You can go and make money. So why are you doing nothing? It's a waste. What's the answer? The answer is not a waste. This is what gives the world its value. I'm making a statement that the world is a godly creation. What is the world if not for the fact that it's a godly creation? It's a nothing. It's an accident. Don't fall asleep on me now. You with me so far?
Yeah, but that's like a living. Sorry, but that's like by an active person that he could think about all this whole idea that he is making a statement about like the God and the world. But a person that's just like laying there.
That's right. The person that's laying there, with every breath that he takes, he is aware of this whole truth.
Let's say let's say this person is brain dead.
What?
Let's say this person is brain dead. How can you think that?
No, brain dead is something else. That we have to have a rabbinic ruling when a brain dead, whether it's called life or not. Talking about somebody who is alive. Apidin is alive means that he is absolutely aware that with every breath he extends his awareness of the Meibusha, of our godly presence. That's what the breath is. And that's what his life is about. This is what gives him the impetus to continue to breathe and do. So, to answer your question, you said you had a difficulty to relate to it. A human life is absolutely not measurable by activity or production. The entire world, kulam linivro elo l'sham sheni, to the Gemara. Kulam, all the beasts, the whole world, everything in the world was created l'sham sheni, to serve the human being. But ani nivreisi l'sham eshaskoini. I was created l'sham eshaskoini, to serve my Creator. Huh? It's a Mishnah. Kulam lo nivru elo l'sham sheni. V'ani lo nivreisi elo l'sham eshaskoini. That's what a human being. To bring the awareness, the presence of God in the world. That's how much
So the first part of the pasuk is referring to who?
I'm sorry?
The first part of the pasuk is referring to who? I mean,
All the animals.
I don't know, my brain's still not making too much sense. Saying, let's say if it's like, fine, let's say he's not totally, fine, let's say this person's not totally on brain dead, but he's a little bit of so he's a little aware, really, how conscious, whatever. So how is he?
One second. This was just to illustrate a point, okay? Think about the human being per se.
Just a regular human being.
A regular human being. Can you fathom to take a human being and shecht him and make lunch or supper
Someone that's
or
doing
dinner?
Someone that's doing things. No, I cannot fathom that.
What? I'm sorry.
Someone that is doing things that is.
He's doing nothing. He's wasting his days, wasting his time. He's watching television day in, day out, 24/7.
Well, he won't because
Do
there's a
what?
possibility.
Huh?
What did you say to do what with him? Do what with this person?
Make lunch.
Oh.
Yeah.
You're not
because-
kosher shechita.
Yeah, bro. Because it's very possible that he could change. It's very possible some way or one way or another that he could change. That's what he won't do. Maybe. But
That's why you want to do it?
But maybe. But
No, not maybe. I'm asking you, Zeh, what is your thought?
well, that's the first thing that came up in my mind.
Pardon
First
me?
logical reason. The first logical reason that came up in my mind was
I
that
can't hear.
the first logical reason that came up in my mind. That's what came up.
No, I'm not asking a logical reason. I'm asking what your... See, this is the important thing. This is why the human being is zeh, rather than koi. We are so misled by the worldly perception of logical reasons. The reason that they have this logical reasons is because they don't know that the world is a godly creation. The world evolved logically. The human being is logical evolution from a monkey. So everything is a logical evolution. But we're not logical. We are direct godly creation. There's no logical explanation how come we are human beings.
Gosh, name of the species.
I'm sorry?
Hashem is the name of the species called man.
I'm sorry, I don't hear.
Hashem made a species called man.
That's right. And man is not a species. Man is man. All the animals are species. Man is not a species. He's a creation all by himself. The whole world is for the sake of this creation. A man does not represent a logical evolution, a logical presence. He is not there for logical reasons. I can tell you why. You don't know why, I can tell you why. The reason is because you were exposed to the evolutionary thought or the worldly thought before understanding Torah. This is why the Rebbe is so adamant against this. Because we are completely disoriented. We don't understand the world from a Torah perspective. Take a very simple thing. Okay, we spent enough time when we go on. Take a very simple thing. A human being has a home, has a house where he lives in. Lahavdil animals also have shelters when they live. Do you think these are two exactly the same phenomenon? Or there is a difference?
It's different because they're going to use them is already once before.
I know I explained it. I want to know that you, not remember it, that you think that you realize it on your own. I explained for you to become aware of what you are thinking. I'm not explaining it to you. You should remember, my words. This is why the Rebbe gave human beings intelligence, that we can know what our neshomas think, not what we can repeat logically. What does your neshama say? That is the same thing? The animal shelter and the human home is the same thing? Like we just finished explaining. Human home is not a shelter. Human home represents the individuality of the person. The limitless value, status, respect that a human being is. Animals have shelter. Animals have shelters. Protect them against the elements. Against the rain or shine or whatever it is. Okay, we have to interrupt and we will pursue this further until we can all say Zeh. We all understand the concept of Zeh. Okay?
I'm so sorry to make you repeat it all the time.
I'm sorry?
I'm so sorry to make you repeat it all the time.
I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry to make you repeat this idea.
No, don't worry. As long as you're working, you'll have to get through it. What is learning Chassidus about? right? To break through the worldly facade and to get into the soul.